So, welcome once again, friends. In the last class, we talked about two very important concepts, transnationalism and unhomely, which I am sure will help us in proper understanding of the diasporic life and diasporic dilemma and the diasporic reality as well. In this class, I intend to talk about some more such terms associated with this body of knowledge: migration, deculturation, acculturation, and assimilation. In fact, we find that the life in diaspora is very complex and calls for physical, psychological, sociological, uh, political, all sorts of adjustments. And there are some complex phenomenons that we can simply talk about. It's not that simple to understand this passes from one physical space to other physical space, because this movement is not only physical, this movement is also psychological, sociological, and what not. So, supposing I am living in Roorkee and I move to London, um, this is not a movement, a simple movement from uh, one place in India to another place in the UK, but the whole thing changes for me. Uh, the settings are not familiar, so I struggle adjusting to the physical space. The people around me are also not the same set of people. Well, I need to adjust to this change as well, and might have a feeling of alienation or aloofness, or might have some practical difficulties like language problem and the manners and mannerisms that are expected of me. So, like, the settings, I mean, are not that simple to adjust to, and that is why, there are several stages in the formation of a diasporic consciousness, and there are several such propositions that a diasporic uh, may have to make such adjustments, or may have to undergo such transformation through such stages in order to belong, in order to exist, in order to survive. So here we go in this particular lecture. First of all, let's talk about a very complex term. We all hear it all the time: migration. So, it simply refers to the movement of people from one place to another, often involving a change in residence or location. And but this migration, as it looks simple, is not that simple, because the migrations are of all kinds, and they depend on certain contingent factors. So there are many push and pull factors, and depending on these push and pull factors, the people migrating will have their lives easy or difficult, in the new location. And migrations can be internal or uh, international. So within India, we see a lot of migration happening from underdeveloped states to developed states and to metropolitan centers, because people find better job and employment opportunities in these metropolitan centers, and so they leave behind their own villages and their own states and go to other states. This may be slightly different from the international migration, in the sense, you are living in your own country and are protected by the same constitutional laws, but nonetheless, within the country also, these migrations create problems for the migrants, and we have seen how this becomes a site of contestation. So, suddenly we find that a particular political party comes and to appease a particular section of society or the people belonging to that particular state, it 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 calls for boycott or expulsion of people from other states. And also we find that sometimes such sentiments are created that the people from other states are attacked by them or are not allowed to carry on their traditions and rituals and festivals. So even within the country, the internal migration also poses some existential challenges to the migrants, but the same is more intense and acute when it comes to international migrations, because you are no longer within the nation state boundary of your own country. You are no longer amongst your own people, and you are no longer protected by your own constitution. So there you find that people are different, the laws are different, the land is different. So migrations are quite common, because without migration probably the humans will not survive. And since ages we have seen that people have been migrating from one place to another for various reasons, mostly the reason of survival, looking for food, shelter, etc. uh, Again, as I talked about the push and pull factors, so migrations can be voluntary or forced. So, while talking about the post colonial and colonial diasporas, I talked about these voluntary and forced migrations, while the colonial diaspora is mostly forced diaspora, in which people were forced to leave their country and go to unknown places, as indentured laborers. In the post colonial world, we have seen how you know uh, skilled professionals are going to places where they find better job opportunities or better growth opportunities on their own. So scores categorizes migrants into four types based on these push and pull factors and the various circumstances leading to their migration. First, he calls voluntary immigrants. So, those that leave their country of origin to find employment, economic opportunities, advanced education, marriage, or to reunite with family members that have already immigrated. And I just talked about this category. Most of our post colonial diaspora falls in this category. The second category is the category of people who are the unfortunate ones, and because of the persisting war, because of the calamities hitting their countries, uh, you know uh, they have been forced to leave their countries, and they belong to a community uh, which is never recognized or never extended citizenship rights in the country, the host country. So they are called refugees, they are in permanent refuge, they are sheltered in a secluded or separate locality, and they don't enjoy the power, privileges, and citizenship rights normally extended to the people of that particular country. So, refugees are those who have been involuntarily displaced by persecution, war, or natural disasters. Then we have asylum seekers. They are the people who willingly leave their native country to flee persecution or violence, because they are non-conformists or they are marginals in their own country, and that is why uh, they fear for life, and so they seek political asylum in a different country. There are sojourners, And these people are those people who relocate to a new country on a time limited basis for a limited period of time and for a specific purpose. Once that purpose is met, they go back to their country. So they are called sojourners. However, Bharati Mukherjee, one of the most prominent figures in Indian diasporic fiction, has always been very critical of Canada, which treats people of color as sojourners despite them living in that country for ages and almost landing on the soil simultaneously with their white counterparts. While the white counterparts are treated as settlers, they are treated as sojourners, and there is a feeling that after their sojourn period is over, they will go back. Now, after migration, let us talk about the phases. These are the psychological, sociological, you know, um, phases through which a migrant community goes. It transforms them. It calls for transformation. It is gradual. It is reluctant, and it is warranted also. So when we look at acculturation, uh, basically this is a process of cultural exchange and adaptation that occurs when individuals or groups from different cultures come into new cultural environment. And because all of us know, if I'm moving from India to Australia, certainly my Indian way of life may not be feasible to practice, and I may have to adapt, though superficially at times, to the new environment and culture. So individuals or groups adopt, acquire, and adjust to the dominant or host culture, and it involves adopting certain aspects of the dominant culture while still retaining elements of one's original culture. So, minded friends, this is different from the idea of assimilation, which directly translates to that idea of melting pot, where you do away with your old culture and you melt into the dominant culture, forgetting all about who you were, what your culture was, what your traditions were. But acculturation, to that extent, is something that allows you to maintain both the cultures simultaneously, uh, but acculturate to an extent that you find life livable and you are not singled out for being different in your host country. So, you adopt certain aspects of the dominant culture by acculturating yourself, but at the same time you still maintain your old culture or parts of it. So Squatch et al. Comment, and I quote, uh, acculturation is most often studied in individuals living in countries or regions other than where they were born, that is, among immigrants, refugees, asylum seekers, and sojourners. This term was first coined by American geologist John Wesley Powell in 1880, who defines it as the psychological changes induced in people due to cross cultural imitation resulting from the interaction with different cultures.
Sociologists.
So consider it as a two-way process in which we find that both the cultures impact each other. To what extent is difficult to ascertain, but certainly, you know, even in our earlier discussions, also we have seen that the diasporic minority also changes the cultural landscape of the majority in the host country. So we find that there are two processes involved in this process of acculturation. First, the minority culture adopts aspects of majority, and second, majority is also influenced by that of minority. So there are different outcomes of acculturation, and here I would like to talk about Berry's acculturation model. Uh, John W. Berry, who is a Canadian psychologist, has developed one of the most influential frameworks for understanding acculturation, and he proposes that individuals face two major questions when encountering a new culture. First, is it considered valuable to maintain one's cultural identity? Is it feasible? Is it advisable? Is it possible? I mean, they are asking this question to themselves. Now that I have moved away from India, can I still maintain my Indian culture? The second is it considered valuable to maintain relationships with the dominant culture? And again, there is a dilemma whether to, you know, uh, completely surrender yourself to the dominant culture and commit to it to an extent that you lose your individual national cultural identity. Now these two questions, become the basis of Berry's four acculturation strategies, which are: first, he talks about assimilation. It is a process in which groups adopt a new culture that virtually replaces their original culture, leaving only traces behind. And it comes very close, as I said earlier, to the idea of a melting pot. And this has always been considered very regressive. And so this did not find favor with most of the thinkers. An individual or group fully integrates into a new culture, often at the expense of their original cultural identity, so that they can survive, they can adapt, and they can be accepted by the host society. It typically involves adopting the language, the customs, the values, and the behaviors of the dominant culture. In this process, individuals or groups eventually become indistinguishable from the culture they came in contact with. So, this assimilation, the strategy of assimilation, though is proposed, to me appears literally impossible, because people cannot really, wipe out their earlier identity and come with an entirely new identity. And this happens because much emphasis is given on fitting in rather than giving importance to one's culture. But as I said, this is contingent upon the material, political, legal conditions that are provided to the diasporic community to thrive, to exercise their culture or uh, their living rights in a particular country. If you land in a country which, discourages any kind of multiculturalism, um, the diasporic subjects are more prone to assimilation. The second strategy is separation, and it refers to the process wherein an individual or group comes in contact with a new cultural group but does not embrace aspects of the new culture, as they wish to maintain their own unique identity without being contaminated by the values and norms of another culture. And many a time we find that, the diasporic people live in ghettos, and these ghettos are their ways of artificially maintaining, the sanctity of their culture, their traditions, their rituals, and their identity as well. So this results in kind of separation or derangement from the rest of the people or the cultures. So, in this process, individuals or group reject the dominant or host culture in favor of preserving their culture of origin. And if you can compare assimilation and separation, you will find that these two terms are just contrary to each other. While one calls for completely forgetting your home culture, the other one calls for completely rejecting the new culture. Then there is a midway, or the golden mean, we can call it integration. An individual or group adapts to a new culture while maintaining their original culture. And this kind of situation, is considered ideal, as we have seen. Critic after critic, thinker after thinker has talked about hybridity, has talked about cultural exchange, cultural mix, cultural fusion, and the ability of the diasporic community to establish a dynamic dialogue with the host culture. So integration is considered the best adaptation strategy when it comes to uh, diasporic community, and it occurs when cultural adoption is considered significant for the smooth functioning of society. This strategy is used in a multicultural society with a relatively high proportion of minority groups. So, we can find it happening in the US and partly in Canada as well. There is another strategy that Barry talks about, and it is called marginalization, and it occurs when individuals or groups barely interact with new cultural groups. So this strategy results in the isolation of that person or that group, and pushes them aside to a corner of the society, forgotten by the rest. And this does not really help, because this is detrimental to their growth and their opportunities in the host land as well. We can also talk about transmutation, which is a process in which importance is placed on both maintaining one's own culture while also adopting aspects of a new culture. And how this is different from integration is that in integration, there is not an amalgamation of cultures. Rather, people can switch between the codes and conducts of two different cultures, whereas in transmutation, cultures are amalgamated into creating a new one. And so it results in hybrid identities, hybrid cultures, and third spaces. Now, another uh, concept is deculturation, and this deculturation, as opposed to acculturation, um is not voluntary, it is involuntary. It's a process of divesting a tribe or people of their indigenous traits, and smacks of some kind of coercion or force applied. It refers to the process where a person, group, or society loses their original culture due to operation, colonization, or other factors that led to cultural disruption. So, unlike acculturation, where there is a process of learning and adapting to new culture, deculturation involves the unlearning of one's native cultural aspects, leading to a state of cultural void. So, it can also be treated as an attempt by a dominant or a colonial power of erasing the identity of the people. If we talk about some of the aspects that are prominent in acculturation, uh, we find that while adapting, people adapt to the language, the local language, the clothing, and the values. And there are also digital acculturations, in that the youth learn, mimic, and remix the cultural practices. uh, TikTok, memes, music preferences, often so acculturated identities with local and global mixed in a unique flavor. But let us think that acculturation is not as simple and linear as we are talking about, as I said, because there are inherent power dynamics that are involved in the whole process. And as I said, you know acculturation, to what extent you will acculturate in a new setup, depends on the material reality, depends on the law, depends on the attitude of that nation towards the diasporic population, and so on and so forth. This also has uh, serious uh, considerations of racism, class, legal status, and does not apply to all the cultural groups equally. So, let's say if you are a legal immigrant, well settled, if you are a Sundar Pichai, your situation is different compared to an illegal uh, worker in, let's say, an eatery in the US. So recently we have seen how you know these people have been treated, and they have been deported by the American government. So for them, they have lot of problems because they don't hold any legal document. So they might even find it difficult to send the remittances back home, because the channels then that they would like to use for the purposes, these channels are blocked for them, because you know we all know, for opening a bank account in our country we need certain documents. So if we don't have those documents, we cannot use the banking channels. So uh, if we talk about acculturation, it is contingent upon you know certain realities like power dynamics, racism, class, legal status, and parents and children always acculturate at different speeds, creating generational tension as well. So supposing a parent who was born in India, raised in India, had education in India, and then later on migrated to US, Canada, or UK, uh, and a child who was born in UK or US or Canada out of these parents, both of them will have different speed of acculturation. While the children born and brought up in those countries will acculturate fast, the parents will find it difficult to do that, owing to their formative influences of their own culture. So, friends, please remember these three key terms: migration, acculturation, and deculturation, and also assimilation, that are very very central to our understanding of diasporic reality. So, these are the references. You can refer to them for building your understanding in more depth. Thank you very much, friends. We'll continue this discussion in the next class as well. Thank you very much.